When we look at, let's say, Ephesians 5, husbands love your wives, wives respect your husbands. It's really easy for us to use that as a magnifying glass to pick the other one apart. Well, I would respect you, Jason, if you would just love me in a way that didn't put your, or vice versa. And there's truth to that, because we don't want to respond with love or respect if we're not being treated with love or respect.
Right.
And so you can use that magnifying glass and just pick the other person apart. But that's not what it's intended for. It's intended for you to see as a mirror where you look at yourself and be like, yeah, I'm not there yet. And so if you have that attitude, man, it just goes so far in a relationship.
Welcome to Let's Talk About That, the podcast where we dive into conversations about life and share stories of faith. We're thrilled to be on this journey with you. Whether you're a longtime listener, someone who calls the Orchard home, or you're just stopping by, Let's Talk About That is your space to explore, reflect, and connect. Join us as we navigate the intricacies of faith, spiritual formation, and daily life as we invite guests to share their stories with us. So grab a cup of coffee, find a comfortable space, and let's do this together. This is Let's Talk About That, where you can be encouraged and inspired by God's work in our lives.
All right. Well, welcome back into Let's Talk About That. I'm excited to have with us today Jason and Nikki Griswold. Yeah, live studio audience. Jason and Nikki attend here at the Orchard in Lake City and have been coming for a while. And as part of us really want to lean into season 2 of the podcast, just hear stories from people who call the Orchard home. We had these guys come on and get to share a little bit of their story. So welcome, guys. Glad to have you. Why don't you get us started telling us a little bit, instead of me introducing you, you tell us a little bit about who you guys are. Introduce yourself. Jason, Nikki's staring you down right now, so that means you're going first, I think. So why don't you get us started? Tell us a little bit about Jason.
I'm Jason Griswold. I have been coming to the Orchard since 2017.
Pre-COVID, lifetime ago.
Pre-COVID, skating rink. I actually remember the day that we came in, the first time we ever went, and we were sitting on the outside aisle, probably about 4 rows from the very back, and you walked straight up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm Chip, the pastor here. Nice to meet you." And I think my answer to you was like, "Yeah." I said, "We're new to this. We're just trying to figure out all this stuff about Jesus, just to try to throw you off, because I didn't want anybody to know who we were, because we had just shopping. We had just been in another church for like 14 years, and we were just kind of looking around. But we had 2 daughters. We're grandparents now to 2 granddaughters, and another one coming soon. So
my man Jason is swimming in the estrogen ocean.
It is.
Definitely.
Yeah, we are a girl family for sure. So I work at home, based out of a company in Jacksonville, and I do a lot of IT work, and I help out.
You do a lot of what?
IT work. Yeah. Yep. So
this isn't a nerd out segment. He's just a nerd.
Yeah. So I help out with the computers and stuff around here as well. So
yeah, help out is saying that generously.
Yeah.
All right. So Nikki, tell us a little bit about Nikki.
Okay. So I'm Nikki Griswold. I serve in a couple of different areas here at the church. I run the online service for Facebook. I help Jason with our small group. I am on the greeting team. What I do for a living, I run an all-ladies gym out of my garage, and it's legit and legal, even though it's out of my garage.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. Give it
Cops called it the illegal sweatshop.
Yeah.
The illegal sweatshop. That's phenomenal. I love that. But that's something you've had going for a while now.
Yes. It was actually Jason's idea. I had gotten into a car accident, had some back injuries, was pulled me away from the traditional gym. And while I was recovering, he had said, have you ever thought about looking into bringing ladies here and training them? And I was like, no. I had a 15-pound set of weights and a mat.
Yeah.
And that's how my business started.
That's phenomenal.
I took on a few one-on-ones, got my business license, all that. And it just, by probably spring of 2017, it just exploded. and we were doing.
So you're saying after you came to the orchard? Is that what you said? All right.
But yeah, no, I love it. Both of my girls are personal trainers now, so they're in the gym with me, helping me, and we see tons of ladies, and it's a ministry. So
that's awesome, and I want to talk more about that in a minute.
Okay.
But I do think it's going to be interesting to hear stories. I love hearing everybody's stories, but I do want to interject for just a minute since this has been a marriage series. Guys, if any guys are listening to this, it worked for Jason. It's probably not going to work for you if you tell your wife, hey, do you want to start working out? That's probably not what you need to tell your wife just at random. I don't know, just throwing that out there. So if you guys have listened to the podcast before, you know that there's probably a question coming your way right now. And you look like you've got answers. So let's see where we're at. Jason, if you were a flavor, what would your flavor be?
Salted caramel.
Okay. Now, we have had a salted caramel before, so I want to hear your explanation.
Well, I can definitely be salty. Especially in the IT world when you deal with stuff, like, hey, I've been using the same password for the last 3 years, and then all of a sudden I don't remember it, and I call them ID10T errors, and so does everybody else in my group. And if you don't know what an ID10T error is, you can just write down the number or write it out, right, on a piece of paper, and it'll kind of explain it for you.
Wow.
The ID10T. So, yeah, but that's the salty side. But other times I can be sweet. I can be, kind of the understanding, try to put myself in your shoes and kind of listen to your story and see where you're at. So, but yeah, there's definitely a salty side.
Okay. Well, our other salted caramel was also, I got a little bit of a salty side too. So I like it. I'm here for it. I like it. Nikki, do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with it in, say, our relationship, because I don't think he doesn't get very salty.
Smart man.
He's more of a sweet guy, but with his job, definitely.
I like it. All right. So Nikki, what about you?
So I've thought about this question.
Okay.
And actually my family came up with.
Oh no, you brought the girls in?
And they said that I am the flavor of nerds. Because
wait, what?
Yeah, like you just never.
What kind of nerds?
I don't know.
I was going to say, don't they have flavors?
There's
the nerd
clusters. So they're all different flavors.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. In other words, multiple personality disorder.
Oh wow. There we're going. There we're going. That's it. Well, the last time when we had the Vincents on the podcast, I think it was the Vincents. Chris, was the Vincents where they pointed out that sprinkles don't have a flavor. And so immediately I'm thinking, wait, do nerds have a flavor? But the nerd clusters.
The nerd clusters.
I'm here for. Okay. The nerd clusters are like a top 5 candy in the Parker house. Yeah. We like nerd clusters. We like the Airhead Extremes, the one that look like little rainbows. Mm-hmm. The boys like the Sweet Tart Ropes. They're, whatever for me. But I think my top one right now is the mini Starburst, but just the bag that has the red flavors in it, and they're already unwrapped and they're mini, not because you just eat one at a time, but because you can get a handful and not feel terrible. And so, this is me telling a fitness trainer about all my favorite candy. This is awesome.
Well, she's the one that got me on the... Yeah, she's the one that got the nerd clusters.
Yeah.
The little gum. Yeah, the little gummy. Yeah. That's what kind of got her talking about it. All right. It's like, I really like these.
The nerd ropes are not as good as the nerd clusters. Mm-hmm. Not the same.
No.
Not the same. I like it. All right. So how about this? We're going to play a little bit of a game right now that these guys are not prepared for. But it's who in the relationship is most likely to do this. All right. So I want to hear your answers. Who in the relationship is most likely to stay up all night reading a book?
That would be me.
Yeah. Nikki? Yeah. You're not a big reader there, Jason?
No.
Not even manuals?
No.
All right. Who in the relationship is most likely to talk to animals?
Jason.
What?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't see that coming.
Oh no. It's
Jason?
him. Yes.
I've talked to the dog, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Does the dog talk back?
I mean, the way he talks to her, I think he's hearing something.
What kind of dog?
Yeah.
Cocker Spaniel.
Yeah.
Nice. So not like a big manly dog.
No.
Now, I mean, there was one point in my life, 20 some odd years ago, where I was talking to a dog that was much, much bigger. And then she locked me out of the house.
That's okay. We don't have time to get into that story. It doesn't sound like. All right, how about this? Who is most likely to binge watch a TV show in one day?
Me.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Which one? What's your favorite right now?
Right now, I'm watching...
Yellow Jacket?
Yes, Yellow Jacket.
Yeah, I've heard. Is it good?
It's wild.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I like it. Who is most likely to laugh at an inappropriate moment?
Me.
I kind of think both of us.
Yeah, we're both.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I saw this question, when I was looking this up, I was like, for this relationship to work, it's probably a neither or both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because if you're going to do it, you need the other person to be right there with you.
Yep.
I mean, what happened to your grandbaby the other day that you couldn't stop laughing about? Got caught in a slide or something?
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't even breathe. You were
Yeah, I
laughing.
was
So,
laughing.
You laughed at your grandbaby?
yeah. So she's crying, screaming, and she's just laughing.
her
And I was,
mama.
yeah, they're both just
Fair
laughing.
enough.
And I was just like, it's funny because y'all are laughing.
I love that. Who's most likely to forget where they parked the car?
Oh, definitely me.
Happen frequently?
All the time.
Who is most likely to try a new exotic food?
Me.
Jason.
Yeah.
What is your favorite weird food you've had lately?
Can't say lately I've tried one,
Just in general, then.
but I mean, the Bee's Feast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tried just about everything there.
Yeah.
We even tried the raccoon, you know.
I don't mind raccoon if it's done right.
Yeah.
And Rendell does a good job with it.
Yep.
Did you try the beaver when they had that?
No, but I probably would have.
It was not great. It was not great.
Yeah.
I'm from Taylor County. There's not much I won't eat, but that was taking it a little far.
I mean, it's. I guess the thing is if it's like a land animal, yeah, I'm all about it. But like seafood, squid,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm eating squid too. So I mean, yeah,
Just a little different.
snails. I'm gonna do snails.
All right. How about this? Who's most likely to leave the lights on?
Jason.
Oh man, the fire in her eyes. I wish this should be on YouTube, Chris. The fire in her eyes right there. That was phenomenal.
Do you have who's most likely to leave the cabinet doors open?
That would be you too.
Well, yeah, that's how I was just wondering. I was just wondering.
That was not where I was going to see that go, Jason.
But I don't know why. I mean, I'll open up a cabinet and then get what I need out and put it on the counter. And a lot of times I'll put it back into the cabinet. And then when I walk out of the kitchen, come back in, I'm like, man, why are all the cabinet doors
All
open?
of them.
All of it.
All of them.
And I feel like Vanna White.
Letters to the cabinet
Yeah.
doors.
Yeah.
Who is most likely to lose their keys?
Well, that would be me. I've literally thrown my keys away probably 4 times. Like found them in the trash, in the trash cans outside.
And iPhones and money and iPods and iPads.
Let me make you feel a little bit better, Nikki. I was in a group text with some friends, and I can't remember where we were meeting up. We were meeting up somewhere, and they said, hey, I'm running late. I can't find my phone. And we're like, did you just text us? Oops. Like, that was bad.
I had a moment like that recently, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. I was literally looking all over my phone I had in my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Yep.
Attaboy.
Yep.
All right, last one. Who hogs the blankets?
Nikki.
Yeah, probably me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. There's got to be one in every relationship, so I get it. All right. Well, that was fun. You guys got some similarities, also got some differences. So why don't you tell us then about the Griswolds and just tell us your story. How'd you meet? How'd that go? First date? Who was the one picking up who? Because last week there was a little bit of debate on whether or not it was a pickup line or a genuine question that turned into a marriage. So I'm just curious. Tell us about the Griswolds.
It's funny. We were just talking about it at small group last night.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Do you want to start?
Well,
I'll interject at one point.
I'm sure because what I have learned in our relationship is to not argue with him on timelines because I have no clue and he does. So he will probably do that.
Don't you hate it when they're right about stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like I had that happen with Leanne last night. We were arguing about something. I was like, no, there's no way. And 2 minutes later, I was proven wrong and she was right. And I was like, I hate when that happens. It's terrible.
Well, we both worked at Publix together.
I was going to go back further than that, but that's fine.
Timeline.
Go ahead.
So her brother and some friends of mine we were friends. So like this is elementary type.
Okay.
So we actually knew of each other for a long time, but we didn't actually like talk and associate and all that.
All right, well, hold please. He's saying it went back that far. Did you know who he was back that far?
She did.
I did, yes.
She did.
I did.
But she did. But she didn't care for me. She cared for my brother.
Did this get awkward, or I don't know, man? Where's AJ? Where's his
elementary school?
Interject here.
Listen, this is elementary school, so...
Her brother and my brother played on the same football team.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was a cheerleader for the football team.
All right. Yeah. She had a crush on your brother, but okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah. So,
fast forward quickly, Jason, go.
10 years later, after I had went into the, Army and got out of, basic training, AIT and all that for the Army National Guard, and started working at Publix again. And, of course, I'm like talking to everybody there. I try to become friends with everybody, especially all the pretty ladies. And, at one point she was talking about her boyfriend and her mom. And, we was always talking about, you really should date my daughter. You just need to get her away from that boy she's dating. And
that's Nikki's mom telling you this?
Nikki's mom telling me this.
Knowing Nikki's mom, that's even better.
Yeah, she did not like her boyfriend. And so... her mom was always like giving me chicken. Hey, Jason, you want some chickens? And you get like the box, because she worked in the deli. I
was going to say, this is North Central Florida at its finest right here.
She worked in the deli, and like every night they'd get rid of all the chicken. So, me, and because I was always part of the night crew, we get the box of chicken. We go outside and, sit out the parking lot, eat fried chicken.
Just some good old boys eat chicken in the parking lot.
Yep. And funny, I don't know if you know, but that's where I met him.
Okay.
He was one of those guys that was being out there with us too. So, but we at one point she had said something about him, and he walked in and he kind of
the boyfriend,
and said something to her, and I think she was just kind of like can't believe he's doing that or whatever. I could tell she was upset. So you know what, you just need to dump the zero and go out with a hero. And,
was that the line?
That was the line.
Oh my gosh, Jason, what were you doing?
Hey,
I mean, it worked.
It worked. because within, I don't know, a few weeks later, like her best friend comes up to me and says, hey, you need to ask Nikki out. Her just broke up. Well, I just said his name, but anyway. And I was like,
hold on. Oh, no, the censor button's not working. Yeah. So we'll just say.
So we went out, and it kind of stuck from there on. And then we ended up getting married about a year and a half later, I think. And, been together ever since. It's been... We've had a lot of ups, and we've had some downs too. So, I mean, marriage isn't easy. I don't think it's easy for anybody. And if anybody says it's really, really easy, I think they're lying personally. But,
or they just, on their honeymoon still.
Yeah, something. I mean, because, we got married young, and, there's a lot to learn from.
So how old are you when you got married? Because Leanne and I got married young as well.
I turned 19. In September. We got married in November. He turned 20 in October.
Okay. So. Yeah, Leanne had just turned 20 and I was 21 when we got married. I will say, I used to be just a staunch advocate of, man, get married young, grow up together. And I still believe in that. I think it works. But I've also seen where that may be more difficult now than when we got married because of the delayed adolescent phenomenon that you see, where they're just, at 19, 20 years old, they're still figuring out who they are, stuff like that. But I love seeing other couples who get married young and kind of, like you say, grow up together, figure it out together. Guys who are still using lines like dump the zero, go out with the hero. But no, that's awesome. So how long have you been married now? Not that anybody's going to do math and figure out your ages.
I don't care. 30 years in November.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So... gotten married young. You've been married for almost 30 years now. What would you say, I know this is like super broad and even cliche in some sense, but what would you say is like, if you could go back and encourage 20-year-old, 19-year-old self, what would you encourage them with about the last 30 years?
Angie Land.
Yeah? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You said yesterday, about counseling, therapy, hands down, Angie Land saved our marriage. Like, we were going through a really rough spot. And I think that if I could encourage anybody, especially if they're starting young, go through the counseling together, learn, each other's love language so you know how to communicate with one another. From the time that we finished our session with Angie, like every single day since, and it sounds, I guess, cliche, but I literally feel like I fall in love with him more and more every day because I know how to communicate with him. So
yeah, and
that would be mine.
One of the things I mentioned last week, but we didn't talk about, but maybe you guys, you're kind of hitting on that now, is like everybody has their own set of hearing aids and their own megaphone.
Right.
And the problem is we understand what we're saying and what we mean, but if you don't have those hearing aids, you don't hear it. So what you're saying is you just got to learn how to either hear what the other person's saying or learn to speak in a way they hear for that to work. And so Angie did that with you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, Jesus really saved our marriage.
Absolutely. And Angie would say the same
was
thing.
kind of the conduit for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I would say, that whole salty and, sweet and salty thing, I could be very salty, and I would say that I was probably really salty because it felt like a lot of times that I would say stuff and it wasn't being heard, and probably coming from the other side, she's saying stuff and it's not being heard on me because I'm already, just seeing my one point of view.
Yeah.
Just looking at it from like, okay, this doesn't add up to me. How come you don't understand this? And, just having that understanding, with somebody else, in a marriage, obviously we cared a lot for each other and obviously we loved each other, but we were just really struggling through a communication, problem with each other. And I think just, in a marriage, I think there's all kinds of different marriages where you have some that, it doesn't, they're in a relationship and they love them, but I don't think that they like really, see them as a friend or a partner. They're just like somebody who they just have in their life that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, with Nikki, and I've always felt this with her, this is why I feel we got married. We've always been friends,
both laugh at inappropriate times.
Right. Even at Publix, we were friends for months before we actually started going out on a date.
Yeah.
I just had to keep wearing her out with that one-liner. So it's just, I think that's important. And I don't necessarily think that you got to have, all these things in common, but I definitely think you have to have some common ground somewhere. Whether it's, just spending time with each other or being outdoors or, having something that you do together in some form or fashion. So,
yeah. So what are some of those things that you guys have in common that you like doing together?
Travel.
Yeah.
Was at the top of my guest list.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a both of you thing. You both love to travel, go do things.
Yes.
So going back to the counseling, therapy, whatever, from my seat, one of the most discouraging things that I get to see is people who come because it's kind of like break glass in case of emergency, things are falling apart, we need to talk to somebody. And honestly, just fully transparent, it's usually 50-50 on whether or not it's too late, you know?
Yeah.
And when I say too late, it's never too late. Like you said, Jesus saves your marriage. There's always the possibility for something dramatic, exceptional, to happen. But just in the normalcy of things, usually people wait till it's probably too late to really change stuff. And one of the most heartbreaking stories that I ever heard talking with a couple is we were sitting in an office and we were talking through some of these things because they were right there at the point of that they're getting a divorce. And spoiler, they did. And we were talking and we were just kind of going through the love and respect thing that we talked about a couple weeks ago in church. And you could just start seeing the light bulbs going off in their head. And then by the end of the night, they were talking about how they would be in two opposite ends of the house because they're fighting, sleeping in one bedroom or the other. And both of them just saying, I was just sitting there holding the phone, waiting for them to text, hoping they would be the one to make the text and say, hey, I'm sorry. Why don't you come back in here? Let's talk, whatever. And to just see that realization in both of them that we both wanted this to work, but neither one of us knew how or took that step. Like I'm telling you, that was heartbreaking for me to see that. I was like, I guess even I'd been pastoring for 10 years, 15 years, something like that at that point. And even in ministry that long, I guess part of me didn't realize that you can get to that point where you're like, you both want it to work. There was still that desire to make it work, but it was just too far gone for them. They, whatever. And so that's why I think counseling and therapy, don't wait till you think you need it to go. Right. I think that's an encouragement that I would give. Like Leanne and I have went to see somebody to talk through things with them, not because we were like on the brink of our marriage was falling apart. Matter of fact, one of the things that she asked is, how would you rate your marriage right now? And I think both of us were like 7. It's not great. It's, not perfect. It's not bad. I feel like it's probably better than average, honestly, but we still need to talk to somebody. And I wish more couples would do that. Just like whether it be go to a retreat, to go see Angie, who is a member of the Orchard, and she does this. This is her job. She loves, counseling. Yes. I think that's super important. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
I know. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll never forget. So, counseling is, the counselor meets with one separately and then the other, and then she brings you together as a couple. And I'll never forget when she brought us together as a couple, the first thing she said was to us, the very first session of us together, you guys are going to be fine. And we're like, well, we haven't even started. How do you know this?
I don't know that yet.
I don't know this. And she said, because when I met with you, Nikki, you took all the blame. When I met with Jason, he took all the blame. There was never one moment when we were separated that we put the blame on each other.
That's good.
So when we came together and we started, and I remember we went through like 2 months of counseling. Is that right? Yeah. 8 weeks. And we pulled up for our last counseling session. And I was like, I don't want this to end. And he was like, you want to fake a fight?
That sounds like such a Jason.
Yeah.
That was a better one-liner, Jason. That was a better one-liner.
So yeah, I definitely think that everybody should experience that. And
and it's one of these things, and we have somebody that's close to us right now that they're dealing with, some marital issues, and the response from one side of it is, well, I'm not the one that needs counseling, and I was the one that said that, because I was, like, you're the one that needs it, I don't need it, I hate to say it, but it was pretty evident that I did need it as well, And I really, because it was one of these things I really did fight for a little bit. It's like, I don't need it. You're the one that needs it. You're the one that's got the problem, and of course, me putting all that on her, blaming her for whatever is, it doesn't really help, especially if you're trying to be closed-minded to what might be.
Yeah, I have never seen a completely one-sided issue in marriage, and that's even in marriages where there was like infidelity, right? And even then, usually there were problems before that were both sided. Matter of fact, one of my favorite things is hearing couples do what you guys did, say, no, this is on me, and stepping up. And that's one of the things I think that is so helpful attitude wise to take. I kind of say it like this: when we look at, let's say, Ephesians 5, husbands, love your wives, wives, respect your husbands. It's really easy for us to use that as a magnifying glass to pick the other one apart. Well, I would respect you, Jason, if you would just love me in a way that didn't put your, or vice versa. And there's truth to that, because we don't want to respond with love or respect if we're not being treated with love or respect.
Right.
And so you can use that magnifying glass and just like pick the other person apart. But that's not what it's intended for. It's intended for you to see as a mirror where you look at yourself and be like, yeah, I'm not there yet. And so if you have that attitude, man, it just goes so far in a relationship. What about when kids came into the picture and then kids started stepping out of the picture? Because you guys have been through both of those, and those are two massive milestones inside of a marriage. Is, okay, now we have kids, and now our kids are moving out and they're getting married, and both of those are transitions.
Yeah. To me, she was a great mother, to the kids, and she still is. she's really good.
I was just going to be clear because you said we had two girls and she was a great mother. I want you guys both to know that the girls they're doing great.
Yeah. I mean, we have the two girls, and I mean, when they were little, I worked a lot. I worked away. I basically, a lot of my jobs were about hour travel or more, where I would go to every day. And so, she took care of the kids and, raised them, homeschooled them, just brought them up. And then, I know that whenever they were older, and that's when it was really challenging to me because, I'm just like, and I don't know if it was just my upbringing or just the military. I'm like, look, you need to toe the line. You can't get away with this. And then I'm trying to get her to do the same thing to them. Like, look, you got to get them to listen because I'm really losing my mind because, they're not listening to me.
Swimming in the estrogen ocean.
Yeah. And then she's like, you just need to pick your battles. You just need to say, calm down, pick your battles. You're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, I'm like, just cleaning the rooms. I was
going to say, it's nothing major because I never would have brushed something major under. But yeah, he was very...
Yeah.
But it's created this beautiful relationship with him and our girls now. Like they respect him, love him. Like it just, I don't know. It's amazing.
That's good.
But as our kids left the house, we can touch on that. It was hard for about a week.
I love that.
I love you, Kelsey, really. It was hard for about a week for me. I did maybe a month, where I felt like where's my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to do? But because we had worked so hard on our relationship before the girls left the house.
Yeah, say that again. Yeah.
We had each other, and then we were like, okay, this is good. Like, this is fun. Like, we're able to go and do. And so, yeah.
Now, that is so important because if you don't get those issues fixed before the kids leave,
oh yeah,
it really is. It's not fun. It's scary because now you're having to stare at the person that I'm not sure where we're at or how we're going. And even, I feel like I probably said this a couple times on the podcast, but it was so impactful to me. Just the idea that as parents, you're a parent of an adult far longer than you're the parent of a child.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so many people just get wrapped up in, and again, don't hear me saying these things aren't important, but they get wrapped up in honor roll or sports or friends' parties. And it's like, yeah, those things are important milestones and they help kids develop and grow, but like you're going to leave that in the rearview mirror for most of their life and still be mom and dad. And sometimes we don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's really good. I like that. I do want to shift gears a little bit, even though that we have been talking at the church about marriage. I don't like doing marriage series, if I'm being honest, sometimes because, number one, I think sometimes when you're speaking, preaching, people just assume you're an expert in the matter. That is not you're not the case.
You're on too.
Yeah. I like what somebody said about an expert one time. They said X has been and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So definitely not an expert, but then always, I'm telling you, I don't know if this is God has a sense of humor or we have an adversary roaming, but every time you do a marriage series, you're going to start fighting. And every time you do a parenting series, your kids are going to go nuts.
Yeah.
Every time. So I just kind of dread when those are on the calendar. But we'll shift gears a little bit away from that because, Nikki, you mentioned early on, and Jason, you did too, that you guys came to the Orchard after really spending a long time at another church and the church that the girls grew up in, where you were very active, very involved. You didn't leave there like wishing the place would burn to the ground and, ill will. It was just that season was over and you guys were stepping away. And so I'd like if you guys would to kind of talk a little bit about that transition, but then also, Nikki, how that played into the transition for you personally about how you viewed ministry. Okay. So I know it's kind of broad, but I'll let you kind of jump in where you want to jump in on that. But I think it's really good for people to hear.
Yeah, we were very involved. We started going to Wellborn when our girls were babies, when Kaylee was a baby. Our youngest was a baby. So she grew up there, literally. And I had my hand in everything. Like, I ran the nursery. Like, I was actually paid staff. So I ran the nursery for years. I did children's church, VBS. I did women's ministry. I mean, we practically lived at the church, and we did that.
Yeah. Student ministry, Jason in the sound booth. Matter of fact, I think one of the last positions you held, Jason, was on the search team, like chairman of the search team.
Oh, yeah. I've been on like every committee there.
Yeah.
Then I was a deacon there as well. So
yeah. I mean, so when we say, so for you guys listening, when we say involved, like, it was super involved.
Yes.
Yeah. Personnel committee, church council, the one of the, like you said, the last ones I did, and I learned a lot. Really didn't want to do it, but I learned a lot on that pastor search committee. It was so weird because I remember fighting it tooth and nail whenever the deacons came to me. It's like, hey, we really need you to head this up. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I already got.
I need to talk to somebody else.
Right. I mean, I'm already working 60 hours a week, and then now you want me to do this too. You need to find somebody else that's less busy. Find somebody that's retired. So
if AJ listens to this, he's going to be like, wow, that's familiar. That sounds familiar.
So, but I mean, it was going through the whole process and, bringing in one guy that didn't turn out and then bringing in another guy that did turn out. I learned a lot through that. And I learned a lot about, church, politics and even just like, looking out to not just the church, just looking in within itself. Right, having that inner looking to say, oh, we can only do what we can do within these four walls. Really, is what it seemed like how they were kind of focused.
Yeah,
and and so the pastors and stuff, and even like our committee that we had for the pastor search, I was like, look, we need to be looking for a guy who is kingdom minded. That's not worried about just what's inside these four walls and then this property, what's going on. That's trying to branch out and get the community. We don't want to just say, hey, we're here. We need to be saying, hey, we're here, but this one's here. We need to help them, or these people are, they don't even go to our church, or maybe they go to another church and they don't have the funds to do this. We still need to be looking out for people, as I've heard Franklin Graham say recently, the hands and feet of Jesus, in whatever capacity that is.
Do you feel like that was something that God was kind of, stirring that conviction in you personally, but before you started trying to steer the search process that way?
I think so, honestly, because, it's one of those things where we were attending church and we were doing all this stuff, and it seems like I wasn't really like fully engaged to doing, the things of God and what God would have me do. But it was like then it was just like, praying over it so much and being a part of it, it did seem like I was being steered towards, more that way. And, one of my good friends that was there too, he was the exact same, I would say a mindset.
Yeah.
Just kingdom minded. I'm not worried about what we're just doing at Welber. Let's get, everybody from all these other churches and all these other people.
Yeah, it's not just about what's happening at church during these hours with this ministry or whatever. And so, Jason, you started, kind of getting a mind shift that way, trying to steer maybe the church more in that direction through leading the hires of the pastors there. But Nikki, that journey also seems like something maybe that you went through, but it took on a more personal, angle for you, because you were the one who, if it's a ministry in the church, you're doing it. But now you listed all the ways that you serve at the Orchard, and you do, but none of those are your primary ministry anymore. So maybe talk to us about how kind of you went through that mind shift, but internalized it.
Well, once I started my business and I realized that there was a community of ladies that just needed love and needed guidance when it came to health and fitness, that's kind of when we both realized that, okay, this is bigger than just, coming to my house and working out. So, I kind of getting lost here.
Yeah. Well, so how about this? How did you start to see that opening as like a valid ministry, right? Because you were in the role of ministry happens at church because I'm doing all these things at church,
right?
But this is your garage,
right? Well, I will say this to come back to that. I have been on 2 mission trips through Welburn. I went to Brazil, and it was phenomenal. Like, it was like I wanted to go to more, but when I went on those 2 trips, I knew God was calling me. He's not called me there, but he's called me here. And so that's when I started realizing, okay, well, I don't have to go to Brazil to be a missionary. I can do it right here, in the 4 walls or however many walls there is of garage.
3.
3, I don't know.
3 in a door.
3 in a door, yeah. But just seeing ladies, they would come to me, they're like, oh, you've changed my life. I'm like, it's not me. I'm a tool that you're using. And then, playing Christian music and praying with people, being able to, like, I've stopped workouts before because there's someone crying, and I would be like, we're going to pray,
Yeah. So it's not just, what would Jesus eat kind of thing. We talk about health and fitness. It's really a holistic, just caring for these ladies that come to you.
Yeah, we do devotions in our private members only group, post verses every day.
Fundraisers.
We do fundraisers. Like any way that I can see that I can help the community or help an individual, that's me. And, it is a business, and I do have to make a little money, and I have to pay coaches. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't even charge.
Yeah, no, I get the heart there.
But I'm able to help ladies if, someone wants to be part of it, but they can't afford it.
Yeah.
You're going to come. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's, to me, when you say that, but I need to make, like, I don't think that it's a bad thing to see your business and your faith and your ministry and your mission. Like, those things are all integrated, because I think one of the failings of churches, not just in our area, but all over, is that compartmentalization of, okay, no, not just that ministry only happens within our walls, but ministry only looks like this,
right? Or
that discipleship only looks like this. And no, I mean, it can be far more integrated than that. Like, you help ladies understand how they can integrate their life with their health and their fitness and their spirituality, but then that's what you've done in your business. Like, this is how you make your income, but it's also how you give back to the community at the same time. And so I think that's phenomenal. What's it been like for you, Jason, kind of watching her on that journey?
It's been, I think it's been really cool to see how this is kind of all, turned out. I don't think it's ever went as far as we thought it was going to, like, originally. But, I'm proud of what she has done with this business and with the ladies, and, just how when every once in a while she's like, hey, such and such has this need, and I'm gonna try to do a raffle and try to get a bunch of people together and make all that happen. And I'm just like, man, that's awesome that she has that bandwidth to be able to do that and put that together, because it's it's one of these things that I'm always looking at the business from the side that I see it, because I'm the one that does all the bills and the finances and all that.
Nerd.
Yeah. So it's always, I'm always looking at it from, like, the number standpoint. I'm literally going, I just hope you can buy your clothes. That's just, just pay for your own clothes. That's
not to venture too far off of the subject, but speaking of money and buying my clothes, he told me, he was like, all right, we need to rein this in. He's like, you make this much, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I pay the light bill, He's like, you're going to start paying the tithe. And I was like, what? He's like, then if you spend the money before the tithe is paid, that's between you and God.
Oh, you threw the Jesus card on her.
Tell you. Woo! Well, let me just tell you, it's worked.
But, just real quick, I'll just say about the business. And, whenever we pray at night, and, we try to pray together every night, but sometimes she goes in there and reads a book and falls asleep way before I'm ready to go to bed. So, my prayer's been, God, use this as you see fit. Grow the business as much as you see, or shrink it as much as you see it needs to be. If this is as much as it's going to be, that's fine with us. If it needs to get bigger, it's fine with us too. Just help us open that door wherever it may lead us to.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to ask this question, and this may be setting me up for disappointment, but we'll see. How, you guys came out of Wellburn. You were there for almost 15 years. The girls grew up there, super involved, felt like that season of your life was over, wound up at the Orchard. You've been here now almost 7 years, or maybe a little, man, I don't do math or time well. I'm on timeline.
We're almost 8.
Almost 8.
Yeah.
All right.
March.
How has that transition to the Orchard? And to be clear, I don't know that it has to be the Orchard. I think just when God moves us into a new season of life, this happens no matter where it is. But how has that transition to the Orchard, that new season of faith and life and business, like how has that been a part of your spiritual formation? Like what has God kind of done in your life through that to kind of maybe jumpstart your spiritual formation, shift it around?
Well, for me, it was kind of a slow start. So when we started here, like he said, we kind of stayed in the back, and
let's just say you were enjoying a little bit of, hey, we don't have to do anything at this church.
Right. Okay.
I get that.
I was trying to find the right words.
No, everybody who's been in that season, know that. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I can just go to church. That's wild.
Yeah. And I stayed that way for a long time. Like, I would come to church and I would leave. Like, you didn't see much of me. He slowly started, I think I'm going to volunteer in the sound booth. They need help. I'm like, bye. Like, this is
That's
it.
Between you and Jesus.
That's me. Yeah. Once you get in there, you're never getting out. You know it. And that's been the truth.
100%. Look, if that's true of churches generally, that's true of sound booths specifically.
Yeah. But anyway, so it took me a little while to get involved, and I've just slowly kind of get involved. Being the online, I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can sit behind my screen. I can but for me, I think the friendships that God's brought has not only like the people that he's brought into my life through the Orchard has really deepened my faith, has made me, believe in like good Christian friendships again. Like I can't say enough about the Orchard, I guess I should say. And I love serving here. I know God's going to call me to serve more. I'm just waiting for that phone call for him to be like, all right, we need you here. Right now, I feel very good about where I'm serving. But yeah, I think that just the people and the fact that, like he said earlier, it's a community outreach. It's not just within our church. Like that's huge.
Well, there's always such a tension between who you aspire to be and who in reality that you are. And that's especially true in a church, and as I've been on staff at the Orchard for over 10 years now, I've been the lead pastor for a few. There is, man, I hope this is who we are, but that's not always exactly who we are. So that's so good to hear you say those two things in particular, because one of the things we say at the Orchard is, if all you see is Sunday morning, you're really missing out on the best part of the church. And I know that some people just hear that and think it's just a saying, or some people hear that and they're like, oh, sure, whatever. Because we are so big on Sunday mornings. Like Sunday mornings are, our Super Bowl every Sunday kind of thing, But we really mean it when we say, I'm not downplaying Sundays. I love Sundays. Yet that's not what makes the Orchard so special to me. It is those people that make up the Orchard and their story. It's why we're doing this on the podcast. It's just hearing the stories of people who's come. And then that we truly want to be a church that is more focused on outside our four walls than inside our four walls. And that's not that we want to neglect that. As a matter of fact, Jason does a ton to help us about stuff inside the four walls, like physically and literally. Like, Jason, there's a cable that went bad. We need help, But I don't feel like that ever overshadows that. What we do in-house is so that we can reach further outside, I feel like. So that's good to hear you say that.
Definitely.
What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I had a really good thought about this while we're talking about it. But anyway.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'll probably come back right in the middle. I'm almost getting ready to wrap it up. But yeah, so, whenever we first started coming to the Orchard, it's kind of like you said, right? We just kind of sat back and it was just like, I just like, let's just enjoy this for the moment. And I think I told you this one time, about a year or so ago. I remember what you were preaching in Exodus. It was talking about, Noah and the flood and all that.
Not to interrupt, but this is why I do not argue with him on timelines or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to argue with him because knowing the flood's not an Exodus. Oh, that's a Genesis story.
I'm sorry. No, it's not Noah. Oh my gosh,
Moses.
Moses.
God, hey, one of my favorite jokes that I would always tell people was, anytime we would do Bible trivia, I would be like, so how many animals of each kind did Moses put on the ark? And they're all like, 2. And I'm like, no, Noah put animals on the ark, not Moses.
So yeah, Exodus, Moses, partner at sea. Yep.
Hey, we just made Nikki's week that Jason got corrected on the podcast.
Yeah.
So it was marriage at its finest.
But and I don't remember the exact lesson, but I just remember where it was at, and I just remembered you had put, or the Orchard had put, because Eddie was the the lead pastor at the time, a spin on that applied to my daily life, like right then or right there, that I've never heard anybody do out of the Old Testament ever, and I was just completely just thrown off, and I was just like, man. And I told Nikki whenever we left that day, I was like, I got to come back here and figure out the rest of this, because it was a series.
Yeah, I think the series was actually called "You Are Called."
Yeah, and
we were looking at the calling, and how Moses and Israel, like, they had a calling on their life, but so do you,
right? And I was just like, man, we got to come back and hear the rest of it. And it was just kind of like it just kind of got better. And I remember talking to you and Dawn, like when we first sat down afterwards, I was like, I was excited, and I still am. Even though I feel like I do a lot on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, I'm
still excited to be a part of this church on Sunday mornings, and even the Sunday mornings that we don't have church.
Yeah, like Impact Sunday. Yeah. So let's do that for just a second, Jason, if you don't mind, because you were one of the ones who had a really cool story from Impact Sunday at the Lake City location.
Yeah. So it was funny because, whenever we first were signing up, it's like, yeah, we'll go do yard work, go pick up some trees or, whatever we need to do. And then, AJ's like, hey, I want you to go do the veterans, the camp that we're going to do for the, feed the veterans and all that, because you're, I figured you'd do well with it. Plus, you make some awesome grits. You can just make a bunch of grits. Maybe we can take them over there. And you're a veteran, so you might be able to relate to somebody over there. So, I didn't think anything about it. And then we were there and making grits, eggs, or I had already made the grits, but we had eggs, bacon, sausage, and was feeding the veterans that were staying at that camp that was there. And, Don Miller had came up and was asking Jennifer Lee, who had kind of organized this, hey, gentleman over here needs a 2X jacket. And I heard him say that. I said, what size did you say? He said, a 2X jacket. And I said, that's interesting. I said, because 2 weeks before, maybe 4 weeks before, we had went to North Carolina to take supplies up there.
Yeah.
For the hurricane relief, and we took a bunch of clothes, and I had a jacket that I didn't wear anymore. It was a big 2X jacket, and I put it in with the clothes, and whenever we left, the jacket was in the truck. And I was kind of upset because I was like, man, I didn't want this to be here. I wanted it to go to somebody who really needed it. And, when Don said that, I was like, I'll be right back. So I went to my truck, so I had the truck there, and the jacket was in there, and took it to that guy. We gave it to that guy, and he was a retired, or not really retired, but a Marine. Because they say once you're a Marine, always a Marine. But I mean, he was a Marine, and he was the one wanting the jacket because he wasn't able to walk, and he had a little wheelchair, and he didn't have anything warm. And we gave him the jacket, and he just started crying, and. It almost just seemed like that whole thing. And even though it wasn't that big at the time, but just kind of wrapping my head around all of it helps kind of just all just fell in place.
Yeah. One of the things we say is it just so happens, never just happened.
Yeah. And, it was just an awesome thing. And, just try not to get too emotionally attached to it. But
yeah.
So anyway, but it was, it just really seemed like it was, almost ordained.
Yeah, it was a cool moment, and just to hear, I think it was AJ who shared that with me first, but I heard it from a couple people. Oh, it's such a cool, moment. But I think it doesn't have to be those big things all the time, and whether that be the jacket, it's not a big thing, but it was a big thing to him.
Yeah.
Or, Nikki stopping to pray in the middle of one of your classes, not a big thing, but it's a big thing to that person in the moment, That's what ministry really is, and staying flexible to do that. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Jason is very willing to help us with the things that need to happen in-house. But as soon as we're doing something outside, whether it be taking, I don't remember how many blankets the church purchased and supplies that you guys got together personally and carried up there, or, the Impact Sunday, feeding veterans, like you're right there. And I think it's important for people to understand that, and we want to be a church that is outward focused, but there has to be like that, I don't know if base is the right word, but like that base, that foundation that we reach from, there's the people that you're reaching to, and there are people that you're reaching from, the people that you're reaching with. And that's why when we talk about Impact tomorrow, we say, we want to strengthen the ministry foundations we have at the church, not because we're, trying to do the best we can, want to make everything the best inside our four walls, but we know for us to have a longer reach, we got to have a firmer foundation. For us to be able to really move the needle on lostness in this area, we've got to have our stuff together here at the church, and the way that I've told that story is I get calls regularly about churches asking for help, pastors asking for help. One week in particular, like 3 different areas in North Central Florida reached out about us possibly starting or relaunching a church in their area. I can say now none of that happened, but what I say is strengthen those ministries, that in-house ministry. Yeah, that's so that we can say yes for everything else, because there's sometimes it's like, man, I don't know. We got stuff we got to fix here because it's not, stuff's falling apart. It's not working, figure it out. But that's what I appreciate is that, like you said, even back in Welborn, God showing you, hey, there's more than the 4 walls of the church. We need to be in the community. This is about the kingdom. That doesn't mean there's not a place for what we do inside the 4 walls of the church. We just have to make sure it's in the right order. We do these things to grow and strengthen and disciple so that we become spiritually formed, so that we can go and live like missionaries, whether that's across the street, in our garage, in Brazil, whatever. So that's really good. I think it's been a good conversation. Anything else you guys want to share? Any parting wisdom you want to leave the dozens of listeners before we sign off? Which I'm going to, Chris, look at this, Deucer. I'm calling my shot now. Within a month, this is going to be our highest listened to podcast, because Nikki's going to have all of her gym girls listen to this podcast. So I'm calling it now. Within a month, this is going to be our highest rated podcast. But any final words of wisdom, insights you want to drop out there?
See a girl you like, and there's somebody else, just tell them to dump 0, go out with a hero.
That's good. That's good. Hey, it worked well for you, so maybe it'll work well for somebody else.
Never had a chance to use on anybody else, so.
When it works, you don't get to use it again. That's the deal. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on and hanging out with us. And again, you can find Jason and Nikki at the Lake City location, or you can find Nikki online on Facebook just about every Sunday at 9 a.m. On Facebook. So that's all we have for now. We'll catch you guys right back here on Let's Talk About That next week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About That. We hope it encouraged and challenged you as we continue to grow on this journey of faith and embrace community together. If you have any questions, thoughts, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us through our social media channels or visit our website to stay connected. Your support is what makes this podcast impactful. If you found today's discussion meaningful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share the episode with a friend, and leave a review. Your engagement helps us spread the message and connect with others who can be encouraged through these conversations. Until next time, we hope this episode inspired you to live out your faith this week. Keep the conversations alive, and remember, we're all on this journey together.